Past 4:30. This is a Committee on Ways and Means. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and if I could, I'm going to ask Councilman Wagner to open us up with an invocation, if you don't mind, sir.
I'd like to start with a moment in silence. It seems that the world is getting a little bit crazier every day. We have a lot of problems to think about and worry about, so I'd like to have a moment of silence for our troops, our elected officials, and all of our city officials, including our police and fire. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Item 2 is the minutes, but those are going to be deferred, so we're going to move on to bids and purchases. Is there a motion?
Move for approval of 7 items.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 4 is budget, finance, revenue collections approval of the 2018 amendment to the general fund expenditure budget. Is there a motion?
Second. 4 and 5.
Can we take 4 and 5 together? Okay. Thank you. We'll take both 4 and 5 if that's in order. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 6 is an ordinance providing for the issuance of the sale of waterworks and sewer system revenue bond of $155 million. We got a motion and a second. And Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Chairman and Council, I just wanted to recognize Mr. Ken Hill. He's with us this evening along with other representatives, I believe, of Charleston Water Service and their council, who also serves at the city of Charleston as well. Darren Cook and Charleston Justice on the fine job, and commend them for the fine job that the Charleston Water system does to provide safe and clean water for all our citizens, not just in the city of Charleston, but the surrounding area. And also thank Councilmember Darren for his service along with myself on the board of Charleston Water Service. So we support the bond issuance, and they have a really robust capital improvement program that this will support.
Very good. Any further discussion? Councilor Waring?
I'd certainly like to second what the mayor just said. I'd also like to point out the excellent fiscal and money management that they have over at Charleston Water System. It's second to none. They take advantage anytime the interest rates take a little dip. They take advantage of it. They pay less for the money, which leads to eventually lower rates or smaller increases because it's a highly capitalized business. I mean, they're just great at what they do. Got a great team over there. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 7 is the Fire and Police Department, the 2019 security grant. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 8 is Office of Cultural Affairs. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 9 is Recreation. Approve the City of Charleston, Charleston County District. Did you catch who that was? I think you can take your pick. Any discussion? Yeah. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 10, Stormwater Management Approval EPA grant application requires a match of $62,500. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 11 is Parks Capital Projects Approval Professional Services Contract with TL Lynn International.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 12, Stormwater Management Approval of Fee Amendment Number 1, Professional Service Contract with Davis and Floyd. Second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it. I'm going to, if I could, just stop and ask one question, and it just sort of, it triggered my memory. The Davis and Floyd, we have not seen the contract come back, the amendment for the ask that they had for the $500,000 in service fees associated with Spring Fishburne. Where do we stand on that?
Well, I asked our stormwater director, Matt Fountain, to kind of dig into that just a few weeks ago, to tell you the truth, and I hadn't gotten a report back on it yet, but
Okay, I see Mr. Fountain there. Any updates on that, Mr. Fountain?
Microphone.
Did you hear the question?
If you could repeat it, that would be helpful.
Well, several months ago, we had a contract amendment that came to us that was for about $500,000, if I recall, from Davis and Floyd. It was service agreement that actually hadn't been approved by City Council yet. The work had already been accomplished or done, so they were billing for that. We deferred the item. I'm just curious where that stands with Davis and Floyd.
Yeah, so we've been reviewing that proposal of theirs for the cost adjustments. We've had some discussion back and forth, some negotiation on it. We're going to talk about it again at the budget ad hoc, likely on Friday, and then we'll be bringing that back to council after that with some modifications.
So I'm assuming that they did all that work at risk?
Correct.
So are we presuming that they're going to eat that cost?
Certainly is one of the options.
Okay. Just curious. It's a lot of dough. All right, we'll move on then. Item 13, Parks and Capital Projects is approval of the fee amendment number 3, professional services contract with Moody, and Nolan. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Now, ayes had it. Item 14 is Planning, Preservation, and Sustainability Approval Intergovernmental Agreement. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Now, ayes have it. Item 15 is Legal Department. In discussion. All those in favor Councilman Moody.
Yeah, I want to just be sure that I was clear on this. Is this $50,000 in addition to money we had already appropriated or set aside for this?
My understanding is that this is the original 50, but I'll let Councilmember Shade answer that because I just had that conversation with him.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So initially, when these folks came to approach us, they were asking for $150,000. We approved at last budget $50,000. We went back and forth in negotiations with them. So this is only the $50,000 that we have approved so far. That's it. And they wanted the additional 100, but our wonderful legal staff, Sterling, did a great job negotiating with these folks and helping to prepare this contract. So this is the original 50 that we've already approved. There's no additional money.
I would also add that we've taken out any of the in-kind services that they had initially requested. So we have offered to assist them with applying for ATAX funds, as any type of group would try to apply for those funds. We've also offered to assist them in coordinating some sponsorships, but there is really no guarantee of any type of in-kind services included. Our usual policing services will be available to this, but it's not going to be anything special for this event. It would be as the policing services that would be available for any city event within the city's jurisdiction.
Do they pay for those?
If there is a cost for that, once we delve into the details with the police department over the course of the next year with planning, I did include language that they would be responsible for any extra overtime costs or off-duty type of costs that might happen as a result of that. So that hasn't been determined yet.
Yeah, and I guess that was my concern, is that that this thing is happening during Spoleto 2020, is my understanding, is when this is going to occur. And I was a little bit reluctant on the 50, but I kind of finally got comfortable with the 50. But I didn't want that to start creeping with police, with A-tax, H-tax, or any of the other things that are, so, I mean, that was why I wanted to be sure this was the original 50, and that's all that they were asking for. And I'm going to vote to support this, but if they wanted more, I won't be on board.
That's correct. If there was any additional expense that, we actually had a firm number for, if it was going to be a big expense to the city at that time, we would request that they pay for that, so.
All right, final question. Is this $50,000 coming out of the H-tax or A-tax or something? I don't think this ought to be some kind of a hospitality tax. It's coming out of hospitality.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Councilman Shade.
And two things. I just want to recognize Randy Draft, who's with us tonight. He is the one who introduced me to these organizations and this race, and he's been with us, been very helpful in helping us negotiate this contract, and appreciate all of the work that he's done. He's going to be the spearhead to make sure this thing runs smoothly. And to Councilmember Moody's question about Spoleto, we've been in contact with the police department on all these logistics and tried to address all those concerns with that as well. So,
All right.
okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it. Item 16 is Housing and Community Development.
Approval.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it. Item 17 is Committee on Real Estate. Chairman Moody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I might, we had a very long meeting and had a lot of items here, so I'm going to kind of break these things down into several little brackets, if we might. Items A through F, those 6 items dealt primarily with leasing facilities for Piccolo Spoleto. Around that time, those all were approved by the Real Estate Committee, so I would offer a motion that we approve them by Ways and Means.
All right. Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay, the next 4 items, G through J, these were pretty exciting. These are situations over in Maryville, Ashleyville, where we are selling 4 houses. My understanding is, I thought we had 5 more coming, but they said total of 7. I was thinking there was 9, so we got 3 more coming. But these are sales of these houses to these individuals that meet the certain restrictive covenants, and all those covenants are in place. And so I'm going to move for the committee move that we approve this.
All right. Any discussion? Mr. Mayor?
Chairman, I just want to commend council, but also Gianna Shaw Johnson and our staff in Housing and Community Development, and for our citizens to let them know that these 7 houses we constructed and are now selling really as permanent affordable homes in the Ashleyville neighborhood were made possible by a change in an ordinance that council passed, I guess 2 years ago now, that created a fee in lieu for affordable housing, and we've invested this money. It's almost like a revolving fund. When we sell these homes, we'll bring more money back to the fund and be able to go out and buy and build more new homes and put permanent covenants on those homes that they'll remain affordable in our community. I just want to congratulate and thank everybody involved. And there will be a ribbon cutting on Thursday at 2 o'clock over at one of the homes, and council and the public is invited to attend. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion?
Chairman?
Yes,
I
Councilman
think
Waring.
it's noteworthy to point out that the affordability is deed restricted for 90 years on these homes.
Right.
I mean, so
Which is substantial.
substantial. Thank you.
Let's do.
Absolutely. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it.
All right, Mr. Chairman, the next 2 items, K and L. K deals with, we had 6 homes in this particular area here, Cooper Street, that we were up for sale. They have not sold, and we agreed to move those into the rental market. I think all of those houses in that area that or units that we're renting there are all being paid, and they're more affordable housing. So we voted to approve that. And the other item is L, and in that one we changed the income percentage to get more available residents, I guess would be the way to put that. So we also approved that for the first 15 years on those units there, that unit. So I would move that K and L be approved. They were approved by the committee.
Councilman Jackson?
Thank you, Chairman White. Just 2 things, Councilmember Moody. I did recuse myself from the first item concerning the Grace homes because I am on the board of directors of the Charleston Redevelopment Corporation, who was the expected owner. Oh, thank you. The expected owner of the condominium units that were to be built there. I think we should be on record. It wasn't that they didn't sell. It was that the Housing Authority, in its wisdom, with trying to be the developer and achieve the economies of scale, was not able to pencil out the cost of building condo units, building and selling condo units. So there was never an opportunity to sell them. They were withdrawn before they were sold.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it.
All right, the next item was the memorandum of understanding with the city, the South Carolina Aquarium, and the IAAM Museum for the use of the Charleston Maritime Center. I'll say that Michael Moore, the CEO of the museum, and Jonathan Zucker, the chairman of the board of the aquarium, and Kevin Mills, who is the CEO of the aquarium, were all there and were answering questions. So this was approved by the committee, so I move that we approve this memorandum of understanding.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
We're getting close. The next two items that we need to make a motion on, there were two annexations, and I would move for approval of those two items.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
The last item that was added was item U, and that's the, after we went into executive session, we came out, and one of the items we discussed was this second amendment to the lease agreement with the Charleston Digital Quarter on 99 Marsden, and that particular amendment, second amendment to the lease agreement was approved, and I would move that we approve that.
All right. Any discussion? And I'll just add that on item U, I guess it was U, that we did also ask staff to discuss additional parking needs with them as well with regards to that, with that second amendment, just for the record. All right. Any discussion?
The other things that...
Hold on, Chairman. Councilman Lewis, do you have a question?
I just want to make sure that he gives me some information. Item P. Item P, I didn't hear you discuss that one.
I'm going to cover that one right now, sir.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Go ahead.
All right. Just for information purposes only, Councilmember Lewis, if you look at this thing, there's a item N on here for the Volvo Tennis Center. That item was not ready for us to consider, so that was deferred. We did have a discussion on the wellness and aquatics land acquisition. We were introduced to Mr. John DeStefano, who the mayor can fill us in a little bit on exactly what that arrangement is, but he's going to be helping us look for real estate for affordable housing, for fire stations, police stations, and one of the things we would like to charge him with is to try to find the right piece of property for this wellness aquatic center over in the West Ashley area. So hopefully that will get that project off of center a little bit and get it moving. The next item is the one that Councilmember Lewis was asking about, was the Charleston Battery and the use of the Charleston Battery, that's the soccer team, to use the Stony Field for their soccer games. And there's a lot of stuff that's going into that. It's, Burke High School is going to use that for its football stadium. The Citadel has football games in the fall that take up all the parking. The River Dogs have games that also might conflict with some of the batteries. So I know there's a meeting scheduled
next week
with the mayor and the staff. I think Mr. Kronsberg and some others will be in there, probably our legal folks. But there's many considerations that are going on. I mean, there's the couple that owns the Charleston Battery franchise, they also own the Daniel Island facility where the battery plays now. And they're interested in bringing that equipment, bleachers, big sign, scoreboard, and all that kind of stuff, kitchen equipment, locker room equipment that's, professional grade, and putting it at Stony Field so that Burke High School probably have the best football field in the country. But anyway, all that's got to be worked out. And I know they've met with some of the folks at Burke. They've met with a lot of folks. And so what it amounts to is if this is going to work, where we have this convergence of these things where we can use this field in that way, we need to decide that now before it gets too far down the road with what's going on. So be sure that everybody's at the table. So I hope that answers your questions, Mr. Lewis. And that was the briefing that we got, that's where it is and hopefully where it will go soon.
Well, it's good to know that someone is interested in Stony Field or using Stony Field up. You know, we've been fighting to try to get Stony Field up to par for years. So if we decide, if we decide through partnership with anyone else to do with Stony Field, it's a recreation facility. I think it needs to come before the Recreation Commission. I think it needs to have a public hearing so the folks in the neighborhood can hear, because a lot of times we say we meet with this group and that group, and the groups that need to be to the table or listen to it hadn't been to the table. We've had problems over the years. We don't have a baseball team downtown now. African Americans used to play baseball on the west side, and especially on McMorran Park over by Hampton Park. For some reason, we got run out of the city. Now we're in North Charleston. So I just want to make sure if we're going to do any kind of agreement with anyone to use Stony Field, and we have anything to do with it, it needs to come before the commission. It needs to be a public hearing where people in the community can hear how these uses are put together. And it's not just one group making this decision. But the city council is going to make this decision, then the public need to know it's city council and what decision is made. Because I hate when I walk the street, and people say, well, now, y'all done take everything else. Now we're doing something with Stony Field. Look, before we get it done, something's going to happen. So we need to know. We need to be to the table.
Councilman Gregory?
To me, that what you said is the most important, is the scheduling of all of that those conflicts have got to be resolved before we go anywhere. But before we go and build, and I mean, I don't want to throw Councilmember Gregory under the bus, but I guess I might as well. Actually, I think this went to the Recreation Committee, and he sent it to me. So what we're trying to do is see whether the real estate piece of it makes any sense for some kind of, we can work out a joint agreement. But at some point, you're exactly right. The Recreation Committee has got to get into the scheduling. How is it going to be used? Who's going to use it? Who's going to have priority when and where? And so I think we're just going to have to work together. So I didn't mean to throw my colleague under the bus.
Oh, that's okay.
Councilman Gregory?
It beats the back of the bus, though. Just a quick update for Councilman Lewis. It did come before the Neighborhood Association at their last meeting. They were given Stony Field, still on Stony Field, and they did vote to support it. However, as the chairman just stated, the programming for the facility lies with the Recreation Committee, and the Recreation Committee, at our next meeting, we will get a report from our Parks and Recreation Department on what kind of programming they would like to see, as well as any programming that the school district would like to see, and determine whether or not Burke will be expanding beyond football and perhaps even go back into track. So there are a number of programming issues that we really need to consider before this decision is made. And yes, we did send it over to real estate because it is a real estate issue as well, and we appreciate what you're doing, but we have given specific instructions in our committee to make sure that whatever we decide, that it's not going to hamper our recreation department, our neighborhood, even perhaps the College of Charleston. We just don't know yet the kind of programming that will go on Stony Field. And I agree, there is some politics here, Councilman Lewis, that we have to be very, very careful of, particularly as long as we've been waiting to get Stony Field done, and now that it's done, folks are coming wanting to use it. There is some politics we have to really consider, so I agree with you totally. Thank you.
All right. Councilman Shade?
Davey, this is a question for Moody. Does the River Dogs play a role into any part of these discussions?
A little. Mr. David Eichels was at the meeting, and we recognized that we gave him an opportunity to speak. And my understanding, again, it goes back to kind of scheduling, is that the Major League Baseball is pretty strict and structured in how their games are scheduled.
You meant soccer, you said baseball.
Well, no, but baseball is the River Dogs, okay? And so, but the soccer is not. And so the soccer can kind of move their games somewhat a day or a weekend or stuff like that. So that's what we were told, but we've got to figure all that out. And I don't know if that...
No, that was sort of the question, that he is becoming part of the equation that we're talking about, these moving parts. Oh, yeah.
My understanding was there were actually six baseball games that conflicted with that schedule last year. I mean, they're looking at that. And just one other example of why we think it's important now to move this ball down the field is it kind of goes back to what you were talking about, Councilmember Lewis. It's going to be an artificial turf that's finally put on that. And you can buy an artificial turf that has, let's say, football lines stitched into the turf. Well, that means that's going to be a football field. Whereas this field, if we make the decision that we can use the battery there also, then it'll be a field that'll be marked, that can be marked for any kind of use. So you need to make that before you buy the field. So those are some of the decisions that's why it's important that we make those decisions now, because later on it'll be too late. So anyway, that's what we're talking about from the...
Councilman Mitchell?
Because even you have to check with the soccer, because soccer is a little different from just playing football on the field. Because soccer, and sometimes the soccer use the cleats, right? And if you have the artificial turf, you got to be careful with that too. I don't know how, the particulars to how they're going to do it, but you have to look really into that too. So far, as Stony is concerned, it's a long time coming, because even when Mayor Riley was here, I told him to get rid of the field because we were not doing nothing with the field. And it was looking pretty bad for the city to own a field that was looking like that. And like I told people, I marched in that field back in the 60s in Burke Band, and it was just like that, like it was marching order and all that, and nobody ever did anything with it, and it was owned by the city. Everyone thought the school board had owned it at the time. No one never fixed it. So, it's a very touchy situation when it comes to Stony Field from past individuals who played on Stony Field, even from the 60s when my brothers was there, and the way it's going now, and all of a sudden, bam, everybody's coming forth. So in the community itself, it's a very, very touchy situation when it comes to Stony Field, so you got to be very charismatic with it, whatever we do with it, to even having other uses, if you may, into it, and you have to get into that community first to let them know that we are not forgetting about them, because this is what's happening and this is what they're thinking right now in the community. You see, because when we started this, no one came forth, even when the school board didn't come forth when we tried to get Stony Field fixed all the time before. Until now, when the city said, this council said, okay, we're going to get it done, then the school board came forth. Now everyone is coming forth to try to get into Stony Field because there's no, it's going to be state-of-the-art field. So these are the things that we have to, as even African American, even as whites, have to get into seeing what the community is saying now, all of a sudden, everybody's want to come and jump on the bandwagon. So we are getting beat up on the community for that. So this is why I'm saying when even we go before recreation, whatever, you have to be very, very sensitive about the community and doing whatever we're going to do.
Yeah, and I would say to you, Mr. Mitchell, that that's exactly, we didn't take a vote on this. We just kind of tried to marshal all the information and put it before everybody so we can start having these conversations. And so that's where we are. So we're not going to vote on this tonight. We don't have a recommendation.
But we do need to vote on item U.
Yeah.
Because you immediately answered a question.
Yes, we
and
do
did
need to
not
vote on,
it.
okay.
All right. Any other discussion on the real estate report? If not, do we have a motion for item U?
I made a motion that we,
I second.
Okay, all right.
Item.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. If there's no more, oh, excuse me, Councilman Moody.
I wanted just to report on the executive session.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, I apologize.
We had an executive session and it had 3 items in there. I've already talked about one was Morrison Drive. The other one was dealt with Washington Park Homeowners Association west of the Ashley and the purchase of an easement. And we basically asked our legal team to go back and continue the negotiations on that to see if we can't come to an agreement with that homeowners association over west of the Ashley. The last item, the item dealt with the a FEMA buyout on a piece of property. I think it's in Hickory Farms, west of the Ashley. You have on your desk a stack of paper from what's this, Dr. Rutledge. And we were not ready. We were briefed on the status of that agreement, and y'all now have all the information that we had. And so we think that that's going to be bought out and it will taken care of. I don't know if Ms. Herdina needs to say anything, but we didn't vote on it. We just is moving along.
Right. I would request that if we were going to talk about this any further, that we do need to go into executive session here.
Okay.
So, thank you.
We're still negotiating that. Thank you. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any further discussion? All right, did we pass everything we need to pass? Okay, all right. Now, if there's no more business coming to this board, this committee will stand adjourned. Thank you all.